And speaking of Staz, he's going to be coming up next, going up against blitzchung. And blitzchung is a player who is currently at the bottom. He can, if he wins this match, even up with Patra and keep the the race going on between those two players to fighting to not be bottom spot and to get relegated by the end of the season. But right now, he's going to have to beat Staz to make that happen. He is going to be shielding his Warlock and getting his Warrior Band out, and then Staz is going to be shielding his Hunter and getting his Warrior Band out as well. So, after all that, no Warriors. Good job, guys. But yeah, it looks like both players are going to be starting on Priest as well. So a Priest mirror. I think it's bad enough to play Priest, but is it worse or better to play the mirror, do you think, Derek? Because on one hand, you can win just as much as the other player, I suppose. You've got as much game versus your opponent as they have versus you, which often isn't the case when you're playing against Priest. But also, the games, there aren't a lot of comeback mechanics in the mirror, right? It feels very much like whoever gets ahead stays ahead, in my opinion at least.
Yes, I fully agree. It's a spectacle, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's like
a 2-minute spectacle.
Right. It's like watching a disaster happen in slow motion or something. Like, you can't look away from it, but it can be enjoyable in the Priest, but not watching disasters happen. The Northside Cleric here, as you can see, still one of the most powerful cards in the matchup, as is in any matchup, and definitely will be looking for it here, because the other two cards that have been highlighted there, Psychopomp and Amit, I generally find are a little bit less valuable in the mirror, because it's so centered around turns 1, 2, and arguably that's it. Like, even turn 3, you can already be at the point where it's too late because one player will have buffed up their minions to the point where it's too big.
I think for me, those two cards and why they're there, because it was me who put them in there, is mainly, for me, those are the two cards, or maybe even 3 cards, that the deck actually wouldn't exist without. Because you can, of course, do Divine Spirit Inner Fire things with any Priest deck, right? You could just put minions in, buff their health and kill him. But without Psychopomp and without Amit, you lose so much percent in the games that don't go your way to a silly extent from turn 1. And Psychopomp and Amit make games continue, which is something that Priest has always lacked in those Divine Spirit and the Fire decks in general.
Yeah, and that's why in some of the other matchups, it's opens up a lot of counterplay and interesting strategies you can go for, where you're, trying to save your 1-drops to go with Amit for a big swing. Maybe you're trying to res specifically a Pyromancer to clear the board. In the Priest matchups, generally, while it can swing around the other way, it is very swingy. Whoever pulls ahead at the front will be staying in the lead. But not necessarily the case for the other matchups that we have here. Highlander Hunter, if Staz does end up winning with his Priest and has to go up against it again from blitzchung, is a pretty good matchup, I would say, especially with Staz at the helm.
Yeah, I think it's one of the better ones that you're going to get. I honestly struggle to think anything's a good matchup versus Combo Priest, but it's definitely better. And just a shout out, as always, to Staz, forever the player to do his own thing. He's playing Holy Ripple in his Priest deck. He is playing Bwansamdi, but also he's cutting 1 Blade Master from the standard list to play that Holy Ripple, whereas blitzchung does not play Bwansamdi in his list, as he is playing, what is
an extra Acolyte, I think?
Yes, it's an extra Acolyte. So very interesting that neither player are playing the champ list or the hunt race list, if you don't know who I'm talking about. So yeah, you can see Holy Ripple just winning games. Sometimes because of the amount of heal it can gain you with an Acolyte. You either draw a million cards, buff a Light Warden to a silly extent, and just win games. And I'm interested to see how it performs. These two decks are not standard versions of each other, so not quite a strict card for card mirror, which I think in the Priest mirror is probably the most likely deck at the moment to be a strict card for card mirror.
Yes.
Because of everyone's kind of just jumping on Casper's lists.
Agreed.
But let's go into it. blitzchung, probably, whether it's factually true or not, feels like his Grandmaster's life might be on the line in this match, especially with Patra winning. Whether it directly results in him being disqualified, apologies, it's completely the wrong word, relegated or not, it probably feels like it, right? If I was blitzchung going into this match, I'd be like, I have to win. I just have to.
I mean, we've seen players freaking out when they're at like a 3-3 scoreline, right? Which is middle of the pack.
Yeah. Oof. Okay, well, so far, even game.
This is already one of the instances where when you look at the mulligan win rate for Priest decks, generally in every matchup, Inner Fire is right down at the bottom. In the mirror, right up at the top. If you can find yourself 1 Inner Fire, like I would argue for Staz, if he went Light Warden Inner Fire, that would be close to game over already. Because just being able to get a value trade with all these high health minions knocking you out nothing actually kills each other in this deck. It's all just smacking against each other.
Yeah, I think
Inner Fire
it would
changes
literally
that.
have to be like Blade Master Silence. As
That's
a response.
right, that's it.
Literally
Yeah,
that
yeah.
exact response.
Whereas now, of course, for Staz, he has to figure out, okay, I can draw a lot of cards here.
And
so will Staz.
You know, we've not
So will
mentioned
blitzchung.
something, and I want to mention it because I nearly won a game with it the other week. Is one thing you have to watch out for as you start talking about card draw is you can mill your opponent's cards very easily in this matchup.
Very
so
easily.
I think both players need to just at least consider when and how to play a cleric on what size board,
Yeah.
and if they ever have the opportunity to play 2 clerics on the board, they need to have counted up how many circles of healing have been played by your opponent, because you can mill. Who was it in Seoul that had the insane?
That was Suni and
It was
Physics
Suni, wasn't
King.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had the insane win with like from 30
Craziest
to
game
dead
I've
by
ever
just
seen.
milling all the cards. Oh,
There's an expression for it. You never go north, full Northshire.
yes. But we've seen a lot of players not play optimally in Grandmasters. So the second,
That's the
a
truth.
Northshire hits the board that's number 2, maybe that's causes problems.
Yeah.
We'll see.
blitzchung now clearly relying on the cards that I stated were perhaps not so valuable in the Priest Mirror. In healing here and not developing a minion, he knows on board he's falling behind now. He is accepting that as part of his game plan because he wants to be able to catch up with Psychopomp
Yeah, he
and
can
Amit.
snap the ball back straight away.
Exactly. Well, he hopes to. Whether or not he'll actually be able to is another question entirely.
Yeah. I mean, even against this board, a Psychopomp plus a Cleric with Reborn is pretty difficult
It's
to deal
pretty
with.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see now Staz choosing to do this whilst killing his opponent's Cleric, not giving blitzchung any more draws.
And this Blade Master is one of the saddest Blade Masters I think I've ever seen. Is that just game? How much damage is that now? That's
With the second circle.
16. I wasn't even looking at the circle. Like beaming sidekick double plus attack is 16.
What about
17?
what is ever enough? Wait.
16, 17,
I
and
was
9. It's
thinking-
like 26 damage, I think.
Is Pyro Inner Fire Circle ever better?
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Pyro
that's
Inner Fire
interesting.
the 2/6 and then Circle?
It also draws you a bunch of cards. I honestly don't know. This is a tough turn.
I'm not even going to count it, Derek. I'm
Right,
just
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
watch what Staz does.
It's just too
Pyro
much
Inner
stuff.
Oh, you could also play the
Beaming sidekick.
The Beaming Sidekick.
Yes.
So you Beaming Sidekick, Pyro Inner Fire.
So that's
Circle.
8 damage, 9 damage with the Cleric. You would get 6 buffs, which times 2 is 12, plus the 7, which is 19, and 8,
And 9.
and 1 is 28 damage, I think. So I don't think it's quite there.
I kind of just want Staz to do it now.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm happy to just see fireworks fly here.
Not going for it.
Yeah, I mean, he can put himself in a situation
I mean,
which
this is still pretty good.
pretty much closes out the game apart from exactly silence from blitzchung, which would wrestle him back somewhat. Kind of.
No.
Not here, though.
A spectacle it was as it just quickly just steamrolled away. It's insane, isn't it?
Look at that
Savagery,
man.
Derek. Savagery.
Cold-blooded killer there in Mr. Staz.
Yeah, and you see, like, even though we were trying to count up the fancy lethals, whether it was, whether it wasn't or not, you can see the level of the fact we were even considering it over just that turn.
Yes.
Shows that the deck's kind of silly and it can do silly things. But blitzchung, unfortunately, when you have the Priest Mirror, often is the case. One person gets ahead, the other person definitely does not, and the game ends and snowballs from there. So that was just game number 1. Staz takes it very quickly versus blitzchung. Now, blitzchung has to be feeling it, but we'll give him a minute to decide what he's going to queue next. We'll be right back.
Here comes the boom! Somebody order a bomb!
No. No. No.
Ha, 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 ha. Here comes the thing.
This should be interesting.
Your will is no longer. Magic!
Okay then.
Need a hand, Explorer?
You'll find me wherever the action is. Onward to adventure.
Magic!
This might be turning into a lightning series between the Hunter expert Staz and the player currently at the bottom of Division B fighting for his life called blitzchung, as I believe we are going into now blitzchung on Priest and Staz on his Hunter, which again isn't really known to be a long drawn out matchup as with really any Priest deck. So we'll see what happens here as blitzchung kind of just putting it all on the line here with this Priest.
Yeah, and if you had to put it on the line with any deck in any matchup, I'd probably choose Priest to do so. I'm still trying to think back to that one game for blitzchung there, where the only real decision for him in the game, outside of his mulligan, which is a very important facet of Priest play, getting rid of the Nephicet Ritualist was arguably incorrect when you have, both a Blade Master in hand and a Cleric. Keeping the Blade Master was arguably wrong as well. Yeah. But in the actual game, when he didn't coin out the Blade Master, I'm trying to think back if that maybe could have wrestled him back into the game. It gets very complicated very quickly. But yeah, I think overall blitzchung has definitely got what it takes to play this deck effectively.
Yeah, and even Nephicet Ritualist, even if it's ever Cleric, bop something, heal, draw a card, you go 1-3 or 2-3 in a card draw, like, that'll do sometimes, and maybe that has to do. But anyway, fresh game. Same match, though. And Staz is one secret away from the hand, because look at that. He has one turn to draw a secret. Wow.
If he can get the old Ratto Trappo here. Whoa. This is an
such a weird turn, isn't it? Yeah.
Like, it's never Pyro Circle Trade, right? Because Circle's like such a good card.
What about Pyro Pace?
I like that more.
Because either way, you've got Pyro to try and beat a freezing trap. If a secret's played and the trade happens, well, great. Staz has traded the minion in. And that's a little bit better, but no, he's going to actually trade and heal instead. I do see the merit to this too.
Yeah, it's obviously strong in the case of Secret coming down at all, because it wouldn't just be then a value trade straight up for the Secret Keeper.
Get that coin played, Staz, and get an animal companion on the board.
Yeah, pretty much.
Leok.
I mean, they're all alright here.
Definitely not bad.
Fine, yeah. Ooh. Okay, now we're getting interesting here for blitzchung. So we could see Beaming Sidekick, Divine Spirit trade Circle of Healing to heal back up, which obviously gives an 8 health minion. Not necessarily even vulnerable to Deadly Shot, because of course there'd still be a 1-2 on the board, which the Secret Keeper could not kill off. I think I like that. I think in this matchup, going nice and all in at the start when your opponent has represented they don't have a secret, probably, which means probably no freezing trap. I think it's a reasonable way to go nice and all in at the start.
Yeah, I've spoken about it before, but I feel like in this matchup, the secret is often one of, if not the best. Like any secret is often like the best card you can draw early game.
Right, sorry, yeah, my way was wrong because he wouldn't have been able to kill it off. So this is the way it has to be.
He needed to do 5
Circle
damage.
of Healing first. Yes. Yeah,
Well, he needed to do 4, but he'd never do 4. He has to do 5.
And this is still reasonable, of course. It dies to a few more things, like it's not only Deadly Shot now, it's of course Bow or the Deadly Shot, Kill Command as well.
And of course, well, not this turn, but Mark's shot coming up as well, which makes it a little bit dicey.
It's true.
I honestly was wondering there if Staz was going to play Hunter's Pack. Just to get stuff that does something. Because his hand now is a 4-mana 3/3 that does nothing. A 4-mana 2/4 that draws Zephyrus, so maybe that's good. But maybe that's good enough. I just don't know if like there's a whole turn for blitzchung, then a whole turn for Staz to draw Zephyrus, then a whole turn for blitzchung again, and then Zephyrus can come down and do something. Is that too slow? I don't know. Maybe not. And maybe this slows blitzchung down enough. Look at these trades coming down now.
I love this heal on the Light Warden. I was wondering whether or not you should just go face with that to get the damage in. But to play around, as you said, exactly Mark's shot.
I like it.
Healing up here is absolutely right.
And now look at this, like how slow this is.
It's slow. And for 5 mana, what can Zephyrus get?
Death.
Shadow of Death? Frost Nova? Master Spell on turn 6, perhaps? Psycho Bomb gets nothing right now, right? It'd have to be a trade first, I think.
Yeah,
nothing's died.
Right?
Yeah,
he didn't play the Pyro, right? So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got still got the Pyro in hand, so it's a whole lot of nothing.
And in that case, value trading and saving it seems fine. He, of course, gets the heal in as well.
What if he just trades it and then plays Psycho Bomb?
He gets a 1/2. I think I'd probably prefer heal for the buff. Keeps a minion in play and gets Pyromancer down.
Oh yeah, if he's gonna play Pyromancer, then yeah, sure. That's fine. I just want more stuff on the board. So if he's gonna play Pyromancer instead and heal, as opposed to heal pass, then
I fully agree
I'm with you.
that. Especially as because for Zephyrus here, he can assume there's a reasonable chance that Zephyrus is in hand, 50-50 at least. And at that point, he can expect what Zephyrus will give him, which, like you said, probably Shadow of Death, so he wants to go as wide as possible. Is he trying to get silence off of the Zephyrus here?
Yeah. Reduce himself down to 0 mana when he plays Zephyrus, which will offer him silence.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty smart.
And obviously he gets the bow.
Holy Nova's a terrible card there, Zephyrus. What are you talking about?
It was like, go on, give it a try. And you're like, no, I'll be dead, Zephyrus. I won't get to play the card.
It's like I was thinking, the worst form of torment you could get would be Zephyrus that gives you 3 really nearly good cards. Like, they're not bad, but they're just not quite what you need every time.
Or if, like, it just changed the card, so, like, it would offer you silence there, but it would make silence cost 1. You're like, oh, come on, Zephyrus. That'd actually be a really funny sort of take on an opposite Zephyrus,
Joke
like
card,
a demon
yeah.
Zephyrus. Where
Always
it's like
offers you the worst card.
it gives you a decent card at a cost,
Yeah.
right? You know, you've got to, you know, it's like a more expensive or doesn't quite do as much damage and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I was about to say you could have an overstated minion that gives you the worst card, but then that would still just be the best card in the game because the worst card is still something.
Yeah. So you're saying I can have a overstated minion and draw a
something for
card?
free? Yeah.
Like, okay. Just make it 11 mana.
No.
Oh, Swarm of Locusts.
I'm looking at rapid fire. Nice and cheap.
What does it do though? 2 damage?
Pew pew.
Well, yeah, I know it pew-pews, but
2 damage is
without a Malagos,
I
it's
guess
less pewy.
I guess with
Locust is
Springpore in
7
hand-
damage.
Yeah.
7.
It takes out like a
Rapid Fire would be my last pick. Goblin Prank if you want like on-demand damage. It's +3/+3.
Yeah, I guess with Springpore in hand, it already does a decent job of taking out the board. It's just his hand is quite expensive. Like Swarm of Locusts, in addition to Hunter's Pack and Tiamat.
It's expensive with slow, clunky cards though, whereas Locust is a card that can be played and does stuff, which is why I like it. If the next turn is slow, great, Hunter's Pack or Tiamat. If it's not and he needs to respond because Amit 1-drop comes down, boom, Locust, let's go.
Alright, you're sold. Is he gonna have a 7 health minion on play?
Genius.
Oh, no, 9 health. Swarm of Locust. Trash.
I know, yeah.
Straight
Why would you even
trash.
pick Swarm of Locusts?
What a noob. Good save.
He could have played Ziliax with Goblin Prank and healed more. So now you just taunt Divine Shield. Tiamat, correct?
I was looking at Rush Wind Fury, just to take it out so nothing can go wrong.
I suppose.
There,
I was thinking
obviously,
like
there's
Psycho
no
Bomb.
cards. There's literally no cards. But
Derek. There was no cards when a Pyromancer was left up the other day, and then a Cleric was
that's
drawn.
true.
Or there was no punishable cards.
yeah.
Should I say?
Taunt Divine. Yeah, Taunt Divine Shield is pretty good actually.
Like I don't know. Maybe I feel like you could build on the Taunt and Divine Shield a bit more than just
Yeah.
like leaving Blitzchung with a minion on
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
Because if you look, like Blitzchung can't actually kill Tiamat, right? It doesn't actually beat the Tiamat if it's Divine Shield Taunt.
Wow, Rush Divine Shield. This is not an option
wait,
I
what?
was considering.
Okay.
This feels just worse to me.
Because the problem is that, yeah, so there's always the argument of Blitzchung is drawing 1 card, who cares?
Yeah.
But there's also just like, well, now Tiamat just has to go into the Blade Master again, which...
Like it survives. It
worse?
survives, of course, but
But it would have survived anyway. Divine Shield and Taunt, it doesn't die to the board.
Sorry,
right?
yeah, I meant with Wind Fury and Rush, it would have died
Yes.
just trading
Yes.
it.
It's why I like the Taunt. Because like
Yeah.
it doesn't die to the board, and anything that... I don't know, there's like nothing really that makes it die with 1 card. Oh, misdirection.
But pretty good selection of cards there. But now, of course, for Staz, it's starting to look better and better. Blitzchung doesn't even have the draw of 1 Samdi in his deck. Did not include it.
Oh.
And I think we may be going down to a 1-7 record for Blitzchung here as Staz gets up to 5-3. You got to feel for the man at this point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whether someone, and I'm not particularly saying it has for Blitzchung, whether someone's played good or played bad throughout the whole of season, it doesn't matter in terms of you feel bad.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You know, you never really want someone to feel like I imagine I would feel if I was in that spot. But Blitzchung does take the loss and now is doesn't have a friend at the bottom of the division
That's
with
right.
him directly anyway, because Patra's 1 win above, which means that Blitzchung has to win more matches now to stay up and surpass Patra or, you know, whoever else ends up at that low bracket. So pretty much I think Blitzchung is almost on for having to win every match going forward for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, maybe not for relegation. I think at this point, does he have any chance of getting through to?
We'd have to look at the numbers.
It could get to 7-7 at the best, which maybe gets him through to top 4. But I think, like you said, he's just trying to avoid relegation.
Incredibly difficult. But I believe Staz is standing by, ready for an interview for us. Hey, Staz, how's it going?
Hey, I can hear you.
Good. I want to just ask, in general, how you felt about going up against blitzchung's lineup, mainly just because both of you weren't bringing Druid. Is that something you'd actually prepared for? Because there's only a few players that aren't bringing Druid into Asia Pacific this weekend.
Last week, Druid was hard targeted by most people, so it might be also the same for this week. So I think bringing Druid is not a good idea for this week.
Okay, and in terms of submission as well, we know you as Hunter specialist. You played Hunter last season a lot. You play Hunter a lot this season. As we see, some players, especially across other regions, are kind of just leaving Hunter out. Do you think Hunter is a very good pick and continues to be strong in this format, or is it more that you just really love the deck and you're good at it, so you're going to submit it, or both?
I'm not sure why other people doesn't appreciate the Hunter. It beats the Priest, the Shaman, and the Druid, so I think it's a good deck to bring every week. Well, it's my opinion. So.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be doing
biased,
the job.
Yeah.
I can't really argue with the results, though. So.
Yeah, when Staz is playing it, then I can hear that argument. With other people on it, maybe not so much. But one thing that other people may not understand, and this is myself, I do not understand it, what is going on with this Shaman deck? I've got to be honest, I do not really believe in what you've got going on here. I think there's a lot of other better versions of aggro Shaman knocking about, but maybe I'm just missing something. What is the thinking behind your Murloc, full-on Murloc Shaman?
Basically, all the good matchup that the Zoo have is almost the same as the Shaman. It beats the Druid, it beats the Priest, but I think the Shaman does it better.
Wow.
Yeah. But what's the downside? The downside is that the Shaman loses to Zoo, and I was also thinking that the Holy Wrath Paladin is a good deck to bring, which the Zook is a bit unfavored, but the Murloc Shaman is favored. So
interesting.
Oh, okay.
I kinda prepared for it. So I think, but no one brought the OTK Paladin. So yeah, it's mainly for that.
And I just want to ask as well, when we're talking, or you're talking about preparation, for this week, was Priest heavily in your mind to try and, say, target or at least semi-target and be able to have decks to beat that? Was that something you practiced a lot and prepared for when thinking about this lineup?
Yeah. Actually, it was Priest and Druid. That's why I keep bringing Hunter just to beat the Priest and Druid. The same for Shaman.
Yeah, okay, well, makes sense to me anyway. So good job, Staz, on the wins.
Yeah.
You continue to doing great in Grandmasters and look forward to seeing you next week.
Well done, mate.
All right.
Yeah, I like it. Just it's interesting because it's one of those things where, again, personally, I haven't tested much Murloc Shaman versus Priest.
Yeah, me neither.
But I imagine Staz hasn't just randomly decided it's good. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? That there has to be some level of testing against that. So interesting to see how that story develops.
Yeah, big time. As I think, again, this is what I always feel like with Staz. He's absolutely onto something here. I think aggressive builds of Shaman, there's definitely something there against Priest. Again, I just think he's not quite got the final build of it quite yet. I think other versions of Shaman that maybe run Thunderhead and things like that are better against the Priest. But either way, it's working out for him this week, taking a victory there.
Just another win for Staz. And speaking of a player who keeps getting the wins, Surrender is going to be coming up now